Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the Geaux247 podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me is everybody, Billy Embody, Shea Dixon, and Sonny Ship. We're going to roundtable this thing around the horn type style, give our quick thoughts on LSU's win over Louisiana Monroe, a 101-39 win, a fun night in the PMAC, and just a lot to take away from this. So we'll go around, give our initial thoughts. Let's start with you, Billy. What did you think from the game? What was your main takeaway just looking at how LSU played last night?
Well, I think one, if that's the Darius Days LSU is going to get this year, that's huge, and that's the easy first takeaway. I was up first. I get the layup, and Darius Days had plenty of buckets all night, and really, I mean, I think the way he started, he set the tone, and for somebody who was faced with a decision whether to stay or go and pursue professional basketball, he not re-announced himself to LSU fans in the best way possible. For me, that's the biggest piece because, and this is your first year covering LSU basketball. You started off with a bang, so congrats, Brune.
Yeah.
But Darius Days has been kind of that player that has been here for so long, and everyone's always been looking for consistency from him. So if that's the Darius Days LSU basketball gets this year, that helps the rest of the front court. That helps this whole team. When he plays at his best, LSU's been pretty unbeatable under Will Wade with Darius Days in his lineup and playing well. So Darius Days, big shout out to him for almost outscoring ULM by himself.
Yeah, we did it we're going to do it like the football podcast we did last week where we can't repeat each other. So Shea, you're up next. Make sure you unmute your mic this time, Shea.
Keep talking, Shea.
Well, it's so that y'all don't hear me ruffling around in the background the whole time. Do I get time to talk about Gaines at the end? I don't want to have to pick him right now.
No, we have time allotted for you at the end of the podcast where it's like the Gaines only section. So go ahead.
Oh, man. Okay, I'll choose. I thought that Efton Reed looked like what a 5-star should look like. And I think he's different. The last time they had a big like that was probably Naz Reed, but Naz was a guy who just hung around the three-point line, had a really good shot. And Efton, at least watching, and I know, Matt, you've gotten to watch practices. You got to watch the Nichols tape of what they looked like down there. But it was my first time obviously seeing him and his first time in not an exhibition setting. And he plays well with his back to the basket. I think he had 16 points. He was 7 of 10 shooting. He got 24 minutes in, didn't get into foul trouble, split his boards on both ends, 3 and 3, and just looked super comfortable to me. Like you could tell that, yep, that's what a 5-star should look like. I mean, he's a difference maker that they haven't had that true big in a while, and he could definitely be that. So even the people who were sitting around me, I didn't know him, but they were all commenting, and they were like, golly, man, that kid doesn't look like a freshman. He looks like the best player on the court.
Yep. Sonny, what about you?
I felt Adam Miller was going to be a potential difference maker going into this season. And when he went down, I was kind of wondering, like, okay, if the game's on the line, who's someone that you call a play for, you put the ball in their hands. And I think Xavier Pinson showed last night when he had that ULM dude, he broke both ankles. And when that third, I mean, he broke other ankles that weren't even on the floor. I mean, that was crazy. But with that play right there, he showed that if the game is on the line, give him the ball and let him do what he just did right there. And I mean, he showed that he can. I think he's probably about a foot and a half too deep on his 3 balls.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the way that he handled the ball. I liked, I like the way that they really played defense last night. And it was great to see. And it was great to see Will Wade get so fired up about that defense.
Yeah.
As much offense as they play and as little defense as they played in the past is almost like, equating it to how Mummy gets a pick 6 and he's mad because his offense doesn't get on the court. But Will Wade was fired up last night. And I mean, the whole team was feeding off of that defensive pressure. And it was just great to see because I kind of wondered how he would adapt to having a team that becomes a little more defensive oriented. And he looked like he was all about it last night. So that quelled that concern as well.
Yeah. I'll go with Imwani Wilkinson and Brandon Murray on the wing defensively. Wilkinson specifically 6 steals, but you kind of mentioned it, Sonny. Defensively, just they were outstanding. So Wilkinson in the defense would be my pick. Just holding them, because the first 10 minutes of the game, I was on the board, kind of like afraid. It was 22-17. I was like, they're switching a lot. They're able to do some things defensively just because of their talent, but ULM was still able to get some slips, some layups, some good looks, and I was concerned. And then they just allowed 22 points for the last 30 minutes of the game and just completely locked up. The defensive intensity went up, and that's my takeaway is the defense looked like how I was hoping it would look, just because of the versatility and talent they have on that end. The ceiling is a lot higher this year than it has been in years past. What's up, Shea?
Matty B, and look, everyone got going yesterday. Tip-off was Tuesday for pretty much everybody, and it's ULM, but it's a D1 team, and some teams play, higher level competition. It's one game. For a team that's played no defense in the past, I got this off Tiger Droppings, but then I checked it and it was right. The defensive rating leaders in the SEC, LSU has 7 of them of 10 based off of last night's game. Mawani, Gaines, Eason, Days are all in the top 4. Then you've got Pinson, Reed, and Murray. So a lot of guys were playing good defense last night, which was good to see.
Yeah. I mean, Sonny mentioned Pinson and the creation of this team. Obviously, I feel like without Miller, I was kind of concerned of it moving forward. But Billy, what do you think about this team's variety on offense, just and how they can attack teams in different ways?
Yeah, I mean, being able to share the ball is something that I think, especially after last year, everybody saw the Cam Thomas show, and it was unbelievable. But at the same token, when you're playing, for lack of a better term, just hero ball and ISO and getting him his looks, this is a total 180. Xavier Pinson's a veteran guard. He's played in the SEC, gets others involved. The pick and roll is going to be big with Days and Eason and Efton Reed. I mean, all of those guys are going to get their opportunities to roll, and Pinson's really good in the pick and roll, and that's something that I think Will Wade over the summer even highlighted, that he was just surprised by how good he was in person and how good he was kind of leading into this season, because they had a lot of respect for him from afar when he played at Missouri. But now getting to work with him day to day, he's been much better than even they anticipated. I think you'll see guys like Brandon Murray come along too, and they can get him more involved. But I mean, this team has some balanced scoring early on. Again, it's one game, it's ULM, but Pinson looks like he's going to be able to drive this bus very, very well. Gaines obviously had a big day as well. But yeah, Pinson has been, just one game, exactly what they wanted and really what they needed.
Yeah. Sonny, looking at the bench and the depth of this team, Tari Eason comes in, double-double, 11 points, 10 boards. Obviously, Eric Gaines, Shea's guy, puts up 10 points on 10 shots, so we'll save a little bit for him. But you got those two, and then you get Alex Fudge out there, 18 minutes, and that's a guy who we kind of presume to be the 8th man. What do you think about those three and kind of just the depth of this team moving forward?
I'll tell you what, Alex Fudge, and I think I said this on the group text last night. Man, that dude's got some hops.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets up, and not only does he get up, but he explodes when he gets up. I think I really think that he's got a chance to be dynamic. I mean, just a guy that you put the ball in his hands, he's going to get above the rim, and he's going to make some plays that his game. I could tell that he wasn't as comfortable, with his outside shot, pulling up and shooting from the outside. He's more of a get up to the rim type of player. But I think I'm excited for him. I think he's going to be able to give them and be the type of player that we always hoped Sharif O'Neal would be able to give them. He doesn't quite have Sharif O'Neal's height, but I think he makes up for it with his explosion and how quick he gets up and stuff. He's going to be fun to watch. And I think that once he gets comfortable and once he gets acclimated to playing in the SEC, he could potentially give you another, with his skill set, with his length and his athleticism, he could potentially give you another lockdown defender, kind of like Mwani Wilkinson. I think that he'll be able to give this team, and that really got him in the starting lineup in the early part of last season. So I'm really excited about Alex Fudge. Not to not to take away from Shea's Eric Gaines love that I guess is going to be his new Jarrell Cherry now that we're in hoops season. But, I know he's got to throw some love that dude's way.
Yeah, and I thought Tari Eason defensively was really solid. I thought he did settle a little bit on the from three, did take a little bit too many threes, but I did like what I saw from Tari Eason overall. I'd like to see him, hit the seams a little bit more, get downhill, but I don't have too many complaints from him.
And that was kind of what I expected from him. I expected him to be that type of player, give you some occasional double doubles. And I was a little surprised that he shot as many threes as he did.
Yeah.
That kind of surprised me a little bit.
Shea, what are you looking at?
I thought it was evident. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was evident too that early, even a little bit from Pinson, but certainly from Eason, from a little bit of Murray, but he's a freshman. I'm trying to think of who else kind of fit into that mold. Fudge, but he's getting on the court for the first time. You could tell those guys were kind of off early and that they just weren't settling in. Like you said, Eason kind of got there over time. But I think because of that, some of those guys are going to play. Fudge will play a lot better than he played last night. He missed all of his shots from the floor. He got his 4 points at the line. And then you saw a guy like Eason, he was not hot in the beginning, took some bad shots. And really, you kind of felt like he was just trying to get into his groove. They were up, so guys were taking shots and trying to get guys going. So I think you'll see them continue to develop those guys. And I mean, this is a team that'll go 8, 9 deep. I don't know when they'll get Sharif back. He was in street clothes last night, so he's obviously still a little banged up. But I do think one thing that you could tell, and I think will be interesting to watch, is without Adam Miller, they can't really afford to have anyone get hurt at the guard spot. And then what is Murray and Pinson and Gaines and those guys going to do for you? Because I mean, you saw last night, I thought, and Matty B, guys, you can weigh in, but once they really got settled, Pinson and Gaines, when the ball's in their hands, they see the court really well. They've got insane handles. And I mean, like you said, I think it was Sonny, Pinson put that one dude, I mean, he broke his ankles, and then earlier did the same on another guy. So those guys can handle the ball really well. Murray's clearly a really good defender. I'm curious to see how he looks when he starts getting some shots. But is there a worry at all that you only have 3 of them now? Or is there someone else in this group that's stepping up that you can really rely on? Because at that guard spot, it seems like they're going to go as far as those 3 guys can carry them.
Go ahead, Billy. What do you think about the backcourt depth?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that Will Wade touched on right before the season in his preseason, last week. Just said, look, I mean, we can't afford any more injuries. He actually referenced Justin Williams redshirting this year. That's the plan for him. But if they suffered another injury in the backcourt, I mean, they might have to look at doing something with him or changing up the lineup. I mean, Will Wade said he was even tinkering last week with how things will look. So we'll see if they were to suffer another injury, what they would do. Would they, move guys around? Would they play some different lineups? I'm sure they would. They would try to get by whatever situation they're in, depending on when or if that injury could happen in the backcourt. But the depth in the backcourt is probably a concern. But at least those 3 guys are at least showing some promise right away this season, and LSU can build off of that. And, those guys are going to get more comfortable and be able to, thrive. I think, the big thing about Murray is I think he's somebody that's going to improve as the season goes along. He's so competitive. He's so defensive minded, which this team is really trying to focus on this year. It was a good start against ULM, but we'll see if the defense of the past shows up. I know there's a bigger emphasis on it this year, but the guard play is critical. The depth, staying where it's at, staying healthy is critical. They'll have to do a really good job managing their bodies and doing all of that this year before, league play picks up and it gets even tougher.
Yep. All right, let's wrap this up. Shea, you got something before we?
No, I
was going to go. We're going to go around, and everyone's going to give their final thoughts. So, if you got something before that, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say defensively, a combo of Gaines and Murray, and certainly Wilkinson. Obviously, he's probably your best defender. I thought Fudge was active on the defensive end. He actually had a few turnovers, I think, or got a few steals, I should say. There's a lineup. There are lineups you can put out there that are really where guys are just active. They're right up on you. They keep their hands in the passing lanes. I didn't think this team was going to come out and play as good a defense. And I know, look, they're not going to do that every night, but you could tell that they were putting a real concerted effort to it. And they've got some pieces who are just really good defenders. And I think Mwani said it before the year. His goal is SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He had 6 steals, 2 blocks, 7 rebounds, 4 of them being offensive, 3 on the defensive end. So he's well on his way to sort of setting the tone. If everyone falls in line with him, this is a team that can play some D.
Yep. All right, let's give some final thoughts and what we're looking forward to seeing for the rest of this kind of non-conference slate. Obviously, it's not a super difficult slate. Texas State, I think, is a better team than their name. Liberty, McNeese, Belmont, Penn State, and go from there. But let's start with Sonny, and we'll go inverse way. What are you looking forward to seeing from this team as far as just what they can maybe improve on and what they need to maintain?
Well, just really just getting used to playing together, and I think that's why you saw the starters get as much time as they did last night together so late into the game with the score so out of hand. It's just to give them some time playing together to get used to one another. And, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to the different lineup combinations, because y'all touched on it a little bit with the depth in the backcourt. I mean, they're one injury away from, having to go to that lineup to where you've basically got 3 guys in there, 3 big guys in there, Efton Reed, Darius Days, and Tari Eason, which, I'm kind of anxious to see what that lineup, how that lineup could look like and how it could be utilized in some certain situations when they play some teams with some more height. But I'm just interested in seeing them play together and just get used to one another, because I think we saw bits and pieces of individual flash plays that they made last night. Even Alex Fudge, a guy who I think y'all said he scored 4 points, didn't do anything spectacular, but I was just looking at him just like, geez, man, this guy's got some athleticism. He's got some hops. And so seeing all of those guys just kind of just start, instead of being individual flashes, seeing them all just kind of start playing together a little bit over the course of November into December, I think is going to be big, and it's going to be something that Tiger fans will have a lot of fun watching.
Yeah. Shea, this is your chance to throw some flowers at Eric Gaines for his performance.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think that Adam Miller's injury, you're going to get more Eric Gaines, but I think because of that, he'll develop a little bit more quickly, right? He's not always coming off the bench, at random spots to get himself 10 or 12 minutes. I mean, he was deep into the 20s last night. I think he had 7 assists. Pinson had 7 assists. But what I love about Gaines, and this is what he was great last year, when you put him out there, it shakes everything up. For good or bad, all of a sudden everything's getting shaken, a little bit stirred up. And I think you're going to get more good than bad out of that. I think Pinson's probably a veteran in the sense that he's played so much that he can calm guys down. When you get into a tight game, you're not going to have Gaines just going out there and running around wildly. They'll get Pinson, those guys, to bring them down a bit. And I think Murray will be interesting to watch at the guard spot too. I think he's got great defense, like Billy said, and he said since high school, this kid's uber competitive, and you could see it last night. I'm excited just to see kind of where they go, like Sonny said, all these different rotations. But for me, and I'll double back to what Billy said at the start of the podcast, I guess I hadn't probably put much thought into, like, if Adam Miller were on this team, maybe it all ran through him. But, like, Darius Days is the best player on the team right now, at least if you're going off last night. And he didn't just stumble into that. He was, as the kids say, he was a certified bucket last night. He was literally swishing everything. It wasn't like it was the rim was giving him some help there. So I'm curious to see what Days' role, not role even, but if he's a 20-point-a-night guy for you all the time, because there was always that stat that LSU was 17-1 or whatever when Darius Days scored 10 or more. 3 guys, the big 3, that were getting all the points. So if you could get 10 or 12 from Darius Days, that was often the difference, right? Now he's the guy who's probably going to need to get you 20 a night, and can he maintain that? And like Billy said, they've got him to come back twice now after entertaining off-season, draft, or at least going to get a workout and seeing how he could get better. And it's just clear to me. And Matthew, I thought you had told a good story about this, that you were at one of the practices and Days had come over to you and said, "Hey, who are you?" And then introduced himself and said, "Hey, look, I'm here if you need anything. Thanks for coming out and watching us." And I think he just embodies everything that Wade wants this team to be. So on the court, off the court, I think so much of this season relies on where Darius Days is.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And to build off the Shea story quickly on Days, I mean, Will Wade's called him the mayor since he got on campus. Everybody knows Darius Days. I mean, he could probably run for student body president, and he'd probably win. I mean, that's the type of guy he is. He's just such an easy guy to root for. All of those things, but for me, the rest of the non-conference schedule, defense. Can they keep this up? Can they continue to cause havoc? Will Wade compared what he thought this team was going to be before the season to more of like his VCU style of teams. Can they play that style of defense, wreak some havoc? Can they keep it up? Coming off of this ULM game, they set a high bar. I don't think they'll stay at that level. I mean, most likely, but if they were, that'd be great. But yeah, defense the rest of the way. I want to see them consistently be a defensive ball club going into league play, because when the SEC rolls around, I mean, they're going to have it. There's some teams, and it's a reason why LSU, I think, was picked 6 in the league, that can really play some defense and give you some trouble. But LSU under Will Wade, I think they're the winningest program over the last 4 years in the SEC, and I still pick them to be right in that top 3 range. I mean, that's just where they've ended up. They've found ways to win this year. I think they're going to have to do it through defense, and they need to show that the rest of the way in league in non-conference play.
Yeah. My takeaways and just moving forward, obviously for me, this was my first game in person, right, to see LSU. And the pace is something that just kind of stands out to you. Like when you just watch this team play fast, run, it doesn't seem to matter. I watched obviously a good amount of games from last year's team, but this year's team with Pinson, with Gaines, even with their wings, they're not afraid to get down court really, really fast. We even saw Efton Reed try to handle the ball out of the backcourt and turn it over, right? So they are really, really looking to pitch it forward and get ahead. So that's the first thing that stands out to me just as a viewer. But the rebounding is something that, and it kind of goes off to what you're saying, Billy, about defense, because defense and rebounding are kind of hand in hand. But rebounding, they out-rebounded ULM 47-26. Obviously, that's kind of skewed because ULM missed a lot of shots. But Efton Reed at the 5 is an actual body that can box out, rebound, long arms. He's physical. He's not afraid to get dirty. And then you throw in Darius Days and Tari Eason, and you're like, all right, they have a front court that can rebound with anybody in the country. Like, that's a big deal, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing, along with the pace. So rebounding and pace are my 2 things.
I thought Epton was smart, too, for a true freshman playing his first game. He never got himself into any foul trouble. I mean, he was playing defense clean the whole night. It wasn't like anything went by. Before we wrap up, though, and don't let your gains override the true feeling here. What's the vote on biggest play eruption of the night? And we'll toss Days aside because, I mean, he just hit a bunch of threes. It's fun, and he lit it up. But it didn't have the crowd on their feet like these 3 moments. Are we going with Pinson breaking ankles and then jamming it, Gaines with the steal and then the windmill dunk, or Parker Edwards with the and one to get everybody on the feet at the end of the game?
For me personally, go ahead, Billy.
Parker, that's it.
Parker.
You left out the whole starting 5 getting tossed with 30 seconds left. That was by far the highlight of the game.
I don't know what Ezewira was doing. And if you want to talk about a heads up freshman, and
it looked like he was twerking on that dude's neck.
I don't know what Ezewira was doing. I mean, granted, everyone wanted 100, and Ezewira dunks it, and then he just latches onto the guy and then lets go of the rim. So then he's falling backwards at this point. Everybody was like, "Oh, that was dirty," and they never replayed it in the PMAC. But if you actually saw the replay, it's like, Ezewira, what were you doing? Like that guy should have thrown you off there.
Exactly.
And it wasn't like
he
they all
should have
ran
kicked
over
you
there
when you hit
fight,
the ground.
they all went over there to see if Ezewira was alive after that. But yeah, the student section got after Will Wade about 8 minutes left with the Parker Edwards chance, and he told him to zip it and be quiet. And then about the 6-minute mark, he was like, "All right, let's go." And Parker ripped it off and went in. And what I thought it was also funny is that the young, Brandon Murray, Colbert was in the game at that time. I don't think they realized that what the fans were screaming for us. They were still out there trying to get their buckets and stuff, and everyone's like, "No, give it to Parker."
And then the and one, just an incredible play. People were just erupted.
Of athleticism on that and one.
Yeah, incredible. Sonny, so the moment for you was the starting 5 getting tossed.
Oh, absolutely, man.
That was funny.
Absolutely. Evidently the new thing with 4th and 5th graders and stuff is, twerking, so you see your
That's not
son
new,
walking around the house. No, it is for 4th and 5th graders, apparently. So you see your son walking around the house, humping every door corner that he can like a horny dog, and then that's exactly what I saw that last night. I was like, oh, look, he's twerking on the dude's head.
All right.
November 2021, when Sonny found out what twerking was.
We are off the rails.
All right. I'm trying to be Ernie Johnson with freaking the Shaq and Charles.
Bring
everywhere.
us together, yes.
All right. I was gonna just say the Xavier Pinson crossover was my favorite play of the night, but we don't even need to talk about anything else. There's just a lot of fun around the horn style conversation talking about the basketball team. We'll probably do this a couple other times throughout the year. Obviously, like I said, the non-conference isn't that enticing, but maybe when we get to Penn State, Ohio, Georgia Tech, Belmont as well. So that's a decent slate of games. We'll have another one of these. So we appreciate y'all for joining us. Give us a like on YouTube, share it, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're listening to this on the podcast, do the same. Leave us a rating and review. Send it to your friends. Follow us on Twitter at Geaux247. Check out our content at Geaux247.com. Thank y'all for joining us. We'll talk to y'all later.